We are ready to get into it with the first match of the day. This is going to be Glory versus Patra, and to keep things simple, if Glory wins, then he is going to be first place in his division, whereas if Patra, if Patra wins, then Glory will be second place.
Yeah, I wonder if in the background there, because Patra had a Gengar
Wait,
yesterday.
hang on.
Yeah, I wonder if she was asked to remove that or if just change your background.
I'm going to find out.
Yeah,
I'm going to find out.
Because I liked that poster. It was cool.
Yeah. I'm gonna put a plant's just taking over the room slowly because now there's just more plants.
It's like Day of the Triffids all of a sudden. But yes, for Glory, like you said, this is his chance to really pull ahead of Tom 60229 because for the entire season, it feels like it's really been a two-horse race between Glory and Tom to get that first seed spot. Dawn gave him a little scare around the midpoint, started climbing up, but then fell back into a more likely third or potentially even fourth place if things don't go his way. And honestly, I think that it's pretty well deserved from both of these players. Glory and Tom, Tom has been, I think, by far the less creative of the two players because he's brought pretty much the same deck list week after week.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things of if it works, then why would you change it?
Again, it's similar to Surrender. Surrender's not exactly been doing anything mind-blowing in deck building or submitting, sorry. He played Priest a little bit quicker than most, but in general, he's just been bringing the stuff. And if you win with it, you can't really argue. Whereas Patra, I feel like, has been a little bit more experimental in terms of at least tech choices. We see the Hecklebot in the Warrior, and even Spellbreaker in Hunter, although not mind-blowing, isn't 100% standard. And there's also that Spicy Stormbringer in the Shaman.
Yeah, it's interesting trying to figure out how all the practice groups and social circles work themselves out, because we know from interviews that Patra and Tyler work together quite often. I believe they have very similar lineups this week again. And you have to start piecing the clues together. When you see Stormbringer working its way in, then you're thinking, like, okay, that makes me think Bunny Hopper and Casey, and then you have Patra and Tyler, and then Tyler and Casey on Complexity. You can start piecing it all together. Yeah, exactly.
Well, so like you get the Americans coming in.
The red string starts coming out, to piece it all together. But that is one of the things I do like most, in all honesty, about Patra's run through Grandmasters. Has been her very, very strong preparation. Honestly, I feel like week after week, I'm saying, "Wow, I see what Patra's doing here, and I like it. I think it's a good strategy she's going for. It has just been, unfortunately, when it gets into game, through the draws not coming together or a few of her plays just really not being exactly what you're looking to do in the matchups. It's just missed the mark."
Well, let's get into it. See if Patra can put another point on the board, or if Glory is going to finish in first place in his division. Glory on the top on the Quest Shaman, Patra on the bottom on the Control Warrior.
A matchup that we've seen kind of switch around in the two halves of Hearthstone Grandmasters, for Asia Pacific at least, because in the first half it felt like Warrior was kind of just consistently beating the Shaman, even though we knew that's not what was supposed to happen. It was just getting the job done because it felt like the Shaman just ran out of cards, and then the Warrior would eventually gain too much armor and just get way out of range of any kind of burst damage.
Oh. Speaking of armor and stuff, double
Speaking of things,
double Eternium Rover against Quest Shaman has got to feel pretty magnificent.
Yeah.
That is a good opening, and I know Admirable is a big fan of just one-drops in Warrior and likes to talk about round 4. Again, I think that in isolation, the job they do is very good for each one. I'm talking about the Town Crier and the Eternium Rover, of course. Yeah. So if you play all 4, I think no matter what the meta, it's going to do something. Yeah. Whether that's chip damage on your opponent's face or defending versus aggro, for me, it's almost a no-brainer.
Yeah. I know what Admirable is talking about, that you always want 4 1-drops. You always want the 2 Eternium Rovers, and I think I agree. It's just if I was going to cut a 1-drop, if I saw someone cutting a Town Crier from their deck,
we'd have words.
I would be angry, because Town Crier is just like the most ridiculously giga-powerful card ever.
Right. Mainly because it... it's always got backup. That's the problem, isn't it? It's like when you've seen loads of films where someone confidently starts a fight with someone, and then their friend who's about 80 feet tall, 20 feet wide, comes around the corner, and you're like, oh no, because they always pull, a very, very good minion in the form of a rush minion, either the Mummy or Ziliax, depending on the build, militia commander as well, and it means that you have that dreaded fear of saying, well, okay, there's a town crier, which means
There's
not far
always
away.
a mummy.
Yeah, there's something that comes down to really contest my early board.
Yeah. It's kind of ridiculous when you compare it to Novice Engineer, which I know is a deliberately understated card, but it costs 1 less mana, has 1 more health, and always draws you a card you are looking for. It draws you the correct card. It's like... yes, which is why I like 2 of them in the deck.
Right. It's funny, isn't it? The idea that actual specific card draw is stronger than general card
Generally,
draw.
yeah. It's obviously means you have to build your deck in a certain way,
Right.
like you have to put rush cards in there. But when those rush cards are Restless Mummy
yeah,
and
when they're insane.
Ziliax, which are probably like the 2 best cards from their respective expansions, you're pretty happy.
Glory, not pretty happy. Seeing the way this game is going.
Yeah, and to be fair to Patra, this is the plan that she set out turn 1, keeping the Rover, the Weapons Project, and the Harrison. It's something I like a lot. She knows, of course, there's no weapons to be destroyed in Quest Charmin, and there's not really much else you're looking for in the early game. So I think it's smart.
I think as well, in this specific matchup, there's not really a bad outcome from Hecklebot, is there?
Not really.
Like you can argue, oh well, Mogu if you can't kill it and they have mutate.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
right,
yeah.
okay, well, if you're Hecklebot and can't kill most things on the same turn, then maybe you should question more of your Hecklebot skills. But in general, I think there's no real bad outcome, and there's some crackers. Like if for example, Barista gets Hecklebotted out, which obviously won't for this game, it's in Glory's hand. But if that was the case, then honestly, I feel like you just don't win unless you've got Barista half the time.
Even just Novice Engineer, just like killing a card draw from their deck, or 2 even with the hero power, can be a huge deal.
Mortals are so squishy.
This is a board that obviously looks pretty tempting to brawl. And I think, in all honesty, I wouldn't mind it here. Actually, I guess you can clear up pretty well without it.
I think kill the Mogu with the trades and then play Acolyte or something would be fine.
My thinking was just that if you go Brawl this turn, it clears up the board, you keep all your resources in hand, and the next turn you're looking at a nice, easy Armageddillo. Because if your play is 100% Armageddillo on 6, which I think at the moment, probably yes, you really want to play Armageddillo on 6 here. You want to have the clearest board possible going into that. And you always have to be afraid of Barista and bouncers and things like that, which definitely incentivizes you.
I think that's why I like the non-brawl here, actually.
Oh, okay.
Because Barista can't be done with hero power next turn, which means that although you never want Barista to get tons of value,
That's true,
it doesn't really get the Omega value. And look at this turn, right? Like, there's actually not a lot there to gain, and Patra's actually winning board to a certain extent now. Gets more card draw on in the cycle as well.
Yep.
And also, even if Patra can't play the Armageddillo next turn, there's always that floating turn 7 for Armageddillo as well, which obviously may not be on curve, but still happens before a Tomb Warden can be played.
And while the obvious upside for Patra is she has a Brawl in hand, and she's arguably ahead on board now, the obvious downside, or the punish, I suppose, for this play, is going to become very apparent with the Barista coming down on this turn in pretty disgusting fashion.
It is, but it could be way worse.
Could be worse.
That's the thing. Like, the second you see Barista, it doesn't happen again, right? Almost all the time. Your Barista normally doesn't get bounced. So then it's just like, if this is just the 4 cards, it's unfortunate that obviously the Cyclone is a card on the board.
Yeah.
It's like a relevant battle cry, but if it's only those 4 and that's everything for Barista, then...
I think this is actually a pretty nightmare Barista.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think, like, if your opponent's getting a much better Barista than this, like, if they have a full board, an empty hand, they can go Hero Power Barista. I feel like that scenario comes up so rarely, and if it does, then you just kind of, like, accept you're losing. This isn't to say necessarily that I think that Patra's play was wrong, because she has a Brawl in hand now. She has a minion in play. That's an obvious reason to not go for it. It's just that
I guess
this was, I think, the hard reason to not.
Yeah.
A reason to not go
And
for it.
I think the way I look at it, or would look at it, is if this is the worst thing that could happen, and you're still okay with it,
That's fair.
for the
Yeah.
positives of, well, the second there's no barista,
Yeah.
you're in an amazing spot. Do you know what I mean? Like, if this is the worst that happens,
That's fair.
then I think I'd still be okay with it. Because look how much of, like, Patra could have cleared all but 3 of the minions whilst retaining the board herself. Or
Yeah.
she could have just brawled past. You know, like, I actually, although in Patra's shoes you would not want to see the barista come down
Yeah.
at all, I think it's fine.
Yeah, I think it's fine too. It's just the small voice in the back of my head just thinking that the brawl there to set up for just powerful plays one after the other was the way to go. Because the problem is that we've seen with this matchup, in my opinion, the way we've seen it spin out of control for the Warrior is when they don't seize board control. They don't play aggressively to try and lock things down, which is not the line that Patra took. She's being more conservative with her resources, holding back the brawl, and clearly not setting up for our Megadillo on 6.
Yeah, it's interesting though, isn't it? Because it kind of works the other way as well. By not brawling, she doesn't necessarily concede the board. Because otherwise, if Glory's minions survived, and then Glory has a whole turn to play more minions, and then Patra just plays one taunt into a board full of minions, then it could be even worse. But anyway, that's in the past now. Patra in the meantime does have our Megadillo available, and now there's a Ziliax. The clear reason it was held. Turn 6.
That's something to
I wouldn't-
consider. There's
I
a
wouldn't
fair few
mind it,
taunts
you
in
know?
the deck.
Is it really that big of a punish if there's just a Dillo now?
I wonder.
Like, look at what it hits. There's Brawl and Plague if everything goes wrong. Like,
Yeah.
obviously Plague not really easily activatable right now, but still, it's there.
Yeah, they've already got a good barista. You really don't need to. No, it can't come down again. And you're not brawling this board considering you have no development.
Right. I like this.
Yeah. But this is where Glory starts to be a bit of a happy chappy because he has a hand full of nonsense where he can just start throwing stuff onto the board, throwing damage to the face, and basically just try and consistently get as much pressure going as possible. These are the kind of situations that Warrior honestly kind of struggles to win.
Yeah, and one thing to look out for as well, although we're about to find out right now, is what happens with these bounce effects. A little bit surprised Glory's going for the cable right now, considering he could live drink her into bounce next turn quite easily. Valuing more and more lackeys isn't honestly my preferred way to play against Warrior, because I feel like lackeys are the easiest things to deal with. And your spells also from Shaman don't really affect board in a positive way a lot of the time. There's a lot of healing, there's a lot of removal. Yes, there's like Stormbringer.
There's a few that I'm happy to get.
What would you say then?
Bloodlust, Stormbringer, Soul of the Murlocs, Feral Spirit. Even like you can make use out of Wind Fury, Rain of Toads. There's enough, I think, to be happy with.
I guess you've got to roll the Ethereals first, though.
That's the thing.
We're about to find out if he gets some. Nope.
Yeah, pretty unfortunate lackeys, all things considered, really. He wants the damage lackeys, the spell lackeys. Just any way to get a bit more value, because at the moment, like you said, this is just 1/1s basically that are being thrown onto the board.
And they're all just sacrificing themselves on these both Tomb Wardens right now. Because like even that, what was that, a 7 attack Cable Rat? And there's just one dead so far. There's still everything. There's still a 5A on board.
The Tomb Warden just says, "Break yourself upon my body."
If that was the voice line for Tomb Warden, I would laugh.
That was the Tomb Warden for the voice line for Osric.
Was it?
That's what he said, yeah.
Shows you how many times I played Osric.
I have no idea how I know. I think I just found it a very funny voice line.
Is this just a reasonable warpath, do you think?
Clear everything
What now?
other than the...
You can leave Finley. He's not done anything wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
Because after that, there's Brawl into Dynamatic.
What happens if you go 1 Warpath, Mummy, Hero Panda? Yeah.
I just think it's fine.
Yeah. It's just this nightmare situation that you always end up in as Warrior, where every board is like, it's not that bad, but if I don't kill it, then I'm not developing anything. But if I do kill it, then I've used up a resource, and they just build another board again next turn.
I feel like nearly 10 damage, or almost guaranteed 10 damage if you count the Mana Worm's effect, is bad enough to warrant this. I think if you get upwards of 10 damage plus, you go, I'm going to clear this board, because that's just factually a third of my health.
Yeah.
And the follow turns are good though, right? Brawl, Dynamatic, Dynamatic Plague, Zilliax, Hekabot Zilliax maybe, if required, although it wouldn't gain the health, of course. But I think this is fine. Life Drinker can come down, but no bounce effect is a little bit annoying. Not that I think, endless bounce effects of Life Drinker ended up actually being the way to win this matchup. It never hurts.
Yeah.
And it ends up being like a 7-7. So, it's never too bad.
Yeah, I think it's generally like the way that you're looking to close out the game rather than your constant game.
Fellow humans.
Alright.
Chill out, mate. Not a bad card to get, in all honesty, but not as premier as it often looks. I think 2 attacks just a little bit lackluster.
Ooh. What do you think of that? Mutate on a 1-drop.
I think I'm fine with it, just to get another 2 spells. If it gets you that box of Yogg-Saron.
Double mirror entities.
I mean, it was probably a pretty bad set of outcomes there, but there's, like, in this position, there's very, very few mage spells that you're happy to get, because they're also reactive for the most part. Oh, imagine if you could have got a Conjurer's Calling, though. Mogu Conjurer's Calling.
The dream.
The absolute ruddy dream.
I was I don't know if you were you weren't there, so it was Sottle. Me and Sol were in Purple stream this morning. That's a good one.
That's
by
a very
the way.
good one.
And Orange was there as well.
Right.
And we were talking about what the build is and how busted Mage is going to be after the new cards. And he was like, yeah, I think it's going to be pretty good. Just got to work out how to build it is the problem, because you don't want to run out of juice. And I just seeing the Mage spells then, I just think, oh, Cyclone. You're gonna have a new best friend.
It's gonna be, yeah. I guess the only real saving grace for us, or our one protector, is the fact that a Luneth is not in standard anymore.
Yeah.
Because if that was there with the Flame Waker,
No tomb can hold me.
good pull. They're obviously off the Hecklebot, which we were thinking about at the start. It feels like it's always going to be a pretty good outcome there. Former champ, definitely one of the better ones though.
Did he?
Did he just think there was a Lackey in play?
Glory. You evolved it! You evolved a 1-drop! Glory. Not the first time, and unfortunately I don't think this will be the last, because we've seen Glory stutter a few times before.
I don't want the player in first seed to be doing stuff like that. That is basic mistakes here, man.
It was definitely one of those, he wanted to rush in the Wasp,
Yes.
so his brain just went, well, I played the Wasp and then Lackey it, right? To get the rush on it. Like, that's definitely what his brain did.
Yeah, and he's
he
just like, yeah, great plan, Brain.
Yeah,
Love
good.
it.
You know what, Brain? You can stay.
You're a genius.
You're all right, you. But obviously, his brain skipped the step in which you need a Lackey to proper battle crown the Wasp.
Yeah.
So he just missed 6 damage.
Light the fuses.
But it is still an awkward little board for Patra to be dealing with. And being left with 2 Brawls and a Plague of Wrath in hand now is just not where you want to be. And even though I'm not necessarily saying this was a reason to go for Brawl on turn 5 at all, because I think I agree that she was a little bit too far even on board or ahead on board to be going for Brawl there, but it speaks to what you're trying to do in this matchup at the very least, which is not throw down all your threats at the start and be left with a bunch of removal, because that does not win. They will just outgrind you. Like, even the one card in hand now of Shadowwalk entirely refills Glory's hand, develops a big board. It's insane. If he can find himself like a single ethereal lackey off that Shadowwalk, he is looking very, very good.
Is it time for a Pog Saran?
Is it time? Oh man. You probably just develop the secrets to get room in hand. Yeah, yeah. I'm on board with this.
Engaging TC-130 mental dislocator.
Love that as well. Get the damage through to face, set up for the life drinkers and all that nonsense of Shadowwalk. Now the problem, of course, with Patra is that if she does want to go for the nice clean kill on the 2/6 with the Zilliax, she has to risk just having the lifesteal minion die afterwards, which is horrible.
She may as well do a roll here, right? Is your turn looking much better?
She's got a buff Zilliax. She could just rush in.
Is that is it that good though?
The problem is that
it's on board.
This,
I guess she can swing.
This is the situation though for Patra that I feel like, even though I can understand her reasoning at every point on the way, I still feel like it may not have been right. It's kind of like watching Walt in Breaking Bad. Like, you can always understand his choices, but you know it's wrong deep down. And like Patra being left with 2 Brawls and a Plague of Wrath in hand, there has to just be some other way you can navigate this to get the Brawls down earlier and save some minions in hand. Even if I'm thinking at every point along the way, yeah, you know, you develop the minions here, try and pull ahead on board. Because I think the swing turn that needs to happen is you clear their board, then you develop when they show a sign of weakness.
Here comes the walk though.
And a pretty good walk it is.
Got something to hide?
Oh.
Jeez. Calm down, Shadowwalk.
This is so much stuff. Oh my god. Wow. Okay. There we go.
3 to face as well, not bad. Evolve the walk. I like it.
I like the look of that. Yep. Unless he really wants to save the Witchy Lackey to go with Giggling, which I think is reasonable because you're expecting this board to be dealt with a Brawl already. Like, I think this is already threatening enough for Patra to have to deal with. How broken would a Lackey be that says, Battle Cry, return a friendly minion to hand, it costs 2 less?
What now?
Like Shadow Step Lackey.
Extremely broken.
Extremely broken?
Yes, of course it would. How could it not be?
I don't know. What about just return a friendly minion to hand?
Less broken. I think though, in terms of the singular power level of the card, it would be insane.
Right.
Because Brewmaster's 2 mana.
Yeah,
That would
yeah.
be 1 mana. You know, Shadow Step can only be played in Rogue, for example.
Right, yeah, yeah.
But maybe in terms of just generally what you want to do with Lackey is it sort of, you kind of go bust a bit more often, because
Yeah.
obviously sometimes you want a Lackey to develop onto the board, not remove things from the board.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that happened.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I brought that up is because I was thinking, what would happen if you could bounce the Shadowwalk back to hand?
There would be an OTK version of the deck.
Yeah, I suppose. But here, Glory can just do it anyway.
Do you remember that time you could bounce a Shadowwalk back to your hand, Derek? It wasn't too long ago.
And not make it cost 2 less, make it cost 8 less. Yes, I do remember that.
Oh god, good old Grumble. What a card. I'm
That
glad
was one heck of a card.
I'm glad that card found its moment in the limelight.
It was such a cool card. I love that it was just overstatted as well. I think that just made... I'm glad that they made it just a playable, decent card.
It probably had to be because its effect actually removed power from the
Yeah,
board.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, its effect was honestly a
good.
negative effect on the board.
Well, that's what was interesting because
So, like,
it was, if you used it correctly, it definitely wasn't. Like, you could make it really good.
Right, I'm just saying at a base level,
You lose
if it was a
tempo.
6 mana like 3/4,
Yeah.
you'd die every time you
Yeah,
played
yeah,
it. At least it was a semblance of some kind of high statted minion.
Yeah.
Whereas if it was worse, oh my god. Speaking of oh my god. Ugh.
I think that is the only appropriate reaction to this. Just yeah.
I think the biggest issue for here, and you know, we're slowly stepping towards the last time we'll say this due to being rotated out at some point.
Yep.
He's just no Dr. Boom.
Yeah.
No sort of free AoEs with the hero power. No mech generation. No mechs with rush. It is a big deal in this matchup.
Well, this is honestly what Warrior... The way that Warrior is built, this is what should happen. There's like hardly any card draw, not much value generation. It should run out of cards and die, but it just often doesn't. Whereas here, obviously, we can see Patra is pretty much just locked out of this game now. Actually, I won't say locked out at all. There's always a chance. But it's looking mighty slim.
Well, there's double Warpath Plague will clear the board.
Yep. And then Glory will go. I don't even know. Shadowwalk number 2, just form a champ, get some more stuff on the board.
Yogg-Saron's box, why not?
What now?
I wonder if they'd ever make like an actual physical version of the puzzle box. Because I realize videos on YouTube are like puzzle boxes that people make.
They should do. There's a free merch suggestions
I'd
from
buy that.
Darren Brown.
But only if it actually blasted purple magic in my face.
Or if it actually just casted spells.
It's like, why is there a wyvern, a pig and a bear at my house?
Might very quickly see on the next draw that Elysiana come down.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those issues,
Like a butterfly.
again, similar to the Zul'jin problem. If it's near the bottom of your deck, then yes, you could try and hold off, but if it is the bottom of your deck, you die because you held off. Like, you can't just wait and wait. Obviously now, you'd probably argue he needs a little bit more than Elysiana, so Patra is forced into a bit of a corner where she has to play the Tomb Warden, even though she knows it'll get chopped up.
Yeah. It's such a long and painful march to death that this matchup so often ends up as.
Yeah.
But I think the writing's been on the wall for quite a while here.
A double Titanic lucky to give the extra health to the champs.
And this is the point where, you know, if you find one extra key piece of removal, maybe you can just outvalue them as the warrior. Maybe it's enough.
Reckless Flurry.
But the extra Shadowwalk for Glory just means there's nothing.
Yeah, this game would go on for a while regardless. And I believe 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That is just lethal
That
on
is
board.
just lethal.
There we go. That's a concede from Patra. And Glory takes a lead 1-0, even after a couple of blunders. And again, it worries me just a little bit. Everyone can make mistakes, but you're fresh. It's game number 1. It's a new day.
Yeah.
You know, you've not been playing all day in the Swiss, for example. New day, fresh, and then Glory just made a very straightforward mistake. It kind of worries me for the future.
It does, and it feels like the bane of pretty much every strong player here in Grandmasters is the mental game, just making sure you're in the right headspace coming into these matches, not even the technical play, which I think was the hindrance of players more so last year. Now it's just making sure you're not freaking out when you're going into these games, because that's not the kind of decision that I think Glory would usually make, but he's making them more and more as the weeks go on.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see how it does continue. Glory versus Patra. Currently, Glory leading 1-0, but we're going to find out how this series ends after the break. We'll be right back.
We've created a new home for all things Hearthstone Esports for both desktop and mobile users. From the homepage, you can find the latest articles, scores, and VODs. And from the navigation bar, you can find so much more. Here's how it works. Under the Grandmasters tab, you can view competitor profiles. Here you can see a player's top classes, recent decks, and watch their most recent series. You can also access the standings from this tab to help you understand where each player is in terms of playoff contention or relegation. On the schedule page, you can check the dates and times for every part of the Hearthstone Masters program. This includes the full calendar of Masters qualifiers, Masters Tour event pages, and the weekly schedule for Hearthstone Grandmasters. Looking to try your hand at the decks the pros are using? Simply click the eye on a Grandmasters match to see submitted deck lists. From here, hit the purple Copy Deck Code button and open Hearthstone to your collection. Then, create a new deck and simply answer the Create from Clipboard prompt in the affirmative. Finally, the News tab will show you Hearthstone Esports news exclusively. Dive into interviews with your favorite players and check back every so often to see what you've missed. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the tavern.
We're back and continuing at Patra versus Glory on the final day of the league portion of Hearthstone Grandmasters. And currently Glory leading 1-0, but he didn't make it too easy for himself. But the secondary Shudderwalk as a backup and a pretty solid first one really helped him push it over the line.
Yeah, he just had so much value throughout that entire game. As soon as the Bristol Lynchon came down, offering him another rat was the main thing, of course, getting him even more lackey generation. It just felt like there was little that Patra could do, to be perfectly honest. I'd be curious to know a strong warrior versus shaman expert's opinion on some of the earlier turns. Was there anything she could have done to end up with more minions and less removal spells in hand? Because that's not really the situation you want to end up in as warrior. But either way, it's a game that's gone.
It's definitely a strange one, isn't it? Just because there's always just the thought of, well, if removal's used early, do the minions that were saved actually contest with those late game boards of like hero power into the former champ? But without further ado, let's move on to game number 2. Glory on the top on the Priest. And Patra on the bottom on the Highlander Hunter. Hunter, one of the better decks. I don't think it's the best form of Hunter. If you just want to say build me a deck that beats Priest, that's Hunter. I believe the more tokeny mid-range version or Beast version is stronger overall. But Highlander definitely has some game. It's definitely not a deck I'd be too upset to queue into Priest, unless I saw my opponent's hand right now, and then I'd probably cry.
Yeah, I think this is
Is someone injured?
yeet on out of this game kind of hand here from Glory. Because even though Patra has the Zephyrus, of course, to go for silence here is honestly not that bad, or at the very least going for like Shadow Word Pain later on or something to clear up the board. Still have a bit of a rough spot.
2, 3, 4, 5 though.
It's good. It's a
Not
good
bad.
hand.
It's
a
not
good
bad.
hand. Wow, does it really not offer silence here? Like, can it not read like the lightning bolt on the bottom of Cleric that just says active effect? Like, I mean, I know it can't read the text, but is it because it recognizes Death Rattle, right? It knows that minions have Death Rattle, even if it can't read what that is.
I don't think
It doesn't. Active effect is not a thing.
Because the active effect could be if it trades, it dies.
Right,
you
of course
know
it
what I mean?
could be bad.
negative.
Yeah. But
because
so could Death Rattles, right? Like,
yeah, the thing to think about, or at least the reason I know this for sure,
Right.
is Light Warden. And
Oh,
the way,
yeah.
like, okay, it's not quite the same, but the way it works is if there's a 100 Light Warden, it won't offer you silence because it's not a threat. You know what I mean, though? Because it doesn't deem it a threat. Whereas now it would probably offer silence. Too late, it's dead. Haha, can't silence me if I'm already down.
Zephyrus be crazy.
Not bad, though.
I wonder if Patra thought the same thing, honestly. I mean, I think for the most part, it was probably just, this is a 3-2. It trades versus Cleric. When my opponent full mulligan, so they're less likely to have the punish cards like Tolvir or an extra arms. But it was interesting for sure.
Now the choices, Derek. I love these turns as Hunter. So this was level 1 choice. This was entry level. You just step through the building, first floor. This is what you go for.
Right, you can twirl a sign outside.
Yeah. Could go for the Animal Companion. If it's Misha, pretty good.
Mid-manager
If
level.
If it's Suffer, pretty good. If it's Leok, you're sacked. Or you go to, I won't even say top tier management, this is more like part of the company you didn't know existed.
Right, okay.
Is the pressure plate option to say, this is only, this minion could be a disaster if Glory has the ability to go all in. And after going minion on 1, minion on 2, is it likely that the spells follow up? And if there is, it snipes a 2-3.
That's corporate espionage right there.
There you go, yeah. You're not even in the right building. You've walked into the enemy territory. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the pressure plate was the play, but it's a play that would have had logic behind it.
Big time. Weird play now, however, for Glory. He really, really wants to get rid of that Shore. And I think he will. I think you have to kill off the Shore on this turn, or things just start going very wrong. And therefore, I was wondering if he ever trades in the 2-3 Tolvir first to give him a 50% chance of rezzing Tolvir over Light Warden.
I don't think you can go for Shore.
Really?
Think about it this way. Right at this second, yeah? How many minions can Patra even play?
I guess probably only one.
Can't secret into Hyena yet.
Yeah.
There's Animal Companion, but 1/3 of the time it has charge anyway. Like, I think that would have been too costly to trade.
It's going to be pretty costly anyway.
Is it?
Oh, is it Spellbreak over Animal Companion Hyena? Okay, fair enough, fair enough. It's still pretty good here, given this rush.
It's pretty good, but if there was a decent follow-up from Patra and Glory just had no minions left, Glory would have traded in like what, 2.5 minions?
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot of minions.
But what if it... The nightmare scenario that I'm envisaging, the play where you just lose the game is if, and this may not be possible, this was just my first reaction, was that if they put enough minions in so that Shaw cannot be killed on board the next turn, you have lost the game of Hearthstone. You cannot win at that point, pretty much. If Shaw is on board and you can't kill it, I think you can just concede right there.
If you can't kill it that turn.
Yeah. It's at least horrible, right?
It is horrible. But if you've just traded in half of your board,
that's where it gets more
and then they have follow-up, and you traded in half your board, is that also horrible?
Maybe.
Because
it was just a gut reaction.
Yeah, yeah. Because there's only so many attacks that can be made.
That's the thing.
Right?
Yeah.
Suddenly.
And I guess a lot of the stuff that you're afraid of, like Ziliax or Unleashed Hounds, have rush or charge anyway.
Huffer has, you know, if Animal Comp 1/3 of the time, so... I guess an awkward one would have actually been Snip Snap. Oh no, because it couldn't have killed itself off. Right? Because it would have charged into
it was really just
two
full mana expenditure. Like any 2-drop and any 3-drop is what you're afraid of, I think.
Whereas now, it's like a pretty solid 3-3 to me. There's also a Hyena double secret. I'm not sure if that's better. I don't think so.
You just taking the 50-50 like an absolute god?
No, yeah. It's not even that much of a 50-50, is it?
It's quite a 50-50.
But 2/3 of the time you can test the minion anyway, and then the Ziliax follow-up, I guess? I want to say it's 55-45.
I'll take those odds.
Go with triple secret instead. That looks nice. Triple secret, sorry. Triple 2-drop. 2 of which are secrets. That's what I meant to say.
It's a tough turn because maybe you need to analyze at this point for Patra that I am less than 50% to win the game anyway, which I think is not a ridiculous conclusion to come to. It depends on what you think your opponent's hand is. One of them you know is more arms, sorry. And so I think she can probably make the read that she's not that likely to die. Or to lose the game.
Double Blade Master. I think a heal is required here.
In the light's name.
I guess with Light Warding looks like heal looks a little bit more tempting.
Yeah, I think Glory's just running so low on value that getting into the hero power, which is honestly pretty good, is kind of necessary. Still plays around Rat Trap as well, if he's afraid of that. And it plays around... Oh no, wait, you weren't suggesting more arms. Yeah, I was saying it plays around Pressure Plate, but yeah.
Jeez, Raven, why were you suggesting more arms? It's like... I didn't.
That was me all along.
So now do you take the guaranteed clear?
Yes.
Seems good to me, doesn't it?
It's just one Samdi that you're punished by there, and
and even then you have subject 9 into freezing trap.
Good point.
So I think there's more than enough backup. Ooh. See, Patra just done that last turn. It could have been better.
If she's gonna play kill command here, then that was just wrong, I think, right? Because well, actually. No, not necessarily.
Well, now she can roll Animal Comp.
Yeah, okay. Because if she hit the 3-2, then that was no longer a full clear.
I think I like the Deadly Shot first.
I don't think I like this turn in quite a few ways. I think like I would rather see Kill Command used than Animal Companion. I'd rather save an Animal Companion, I think.
An Animal Companion can be bad though, whereas a Kill Command can always snipe a lot of minions. Like, always.
Fair.
Like, imagine if there's, you know, there's a second Blade Master follow-up. You have access to Beast because you've got Subject 9 and Kill Command next turn. I think it's fine. Don't get me wrong. If the Kill Command came down first with the trade, that's also fine if you want to go down that route. But I don't mind the deadly shot.
I think it's fine. Like 2 out of 3 times, it's better. Sorry, 1 out of 3 times it's better because you keep a 1-1. 1 out of 3 times it's the same, and 1 out of 3 times it's worse. So it probably evens out at about the same because you have a slight upside and a slight downside.
Gonna go for the start. Makes the most sense. Probably has on average for the next turn the most impact.
I think he's represented pretty clearly. He doesn't have one Sandy in hand, so you should be able to snipe off something more relevant. And even if he does play one Sandy, you can still just rush in the 4-4 there to kill it off.
And there's always like the full circle mind games of Glory has to think about what secret it is, but he knows Patra has access to all of them.
Yeah.
So he's got to think about what Patra would play, not what could she play. Which is where you can start mind games in your opponent. After Subject 9, you can almost play any secret you want, and your opponent will think you played the best way in the scenario.
That's what I was saying.
Because why wouldn't you?
Blitzchung the other day,
Right.
where he should play the not best one because they'll play around the best one anyway.
Yep.
But then as soon as people start catching on to that school of thought,
Right.
they'll start playing around
will
only
they?
the worst ones.
And then you'll be
And
like,
then you have to play the best ones again.
Mega Man.
The only thing at all that Patra needs to be afraid of here is just dying out of nowhere. And I think with Ziliax in hand and no Stormwind Knight in the deck, yeah, there's pretty much nothing he needs to be afraid of. Okay.
There he is.
Okay.
Mr. Bon.
Life is an afterthought.
Yeah, surely, actually, today it shouldn't be called Bon Samedi. It should be called Bon Dimanche.
I don't get it.
It's a French Days of the Week joke.
Oh. It's like you didn't laugh at my joke the other week in Twitch chat, so it's fine.
What was it?
Well, I think we were watching Hunter Race.
Yeah.
And what happened? Something happened where there was like there was 2 Bon Samdys on the board. I don't know if it was a mirror or something. I said, more like 2 Samdy.
Yeah,
No,
I remember that.
Well, you didn't laugh. No one put lol in the chat.
Unity.
It's because it's not really a joke as such.
It's kind of funny. It's like a pun. Is a pun a joke?
Often considered the lowest form of comedy.
Well,
not by
that
me, of
is
course.
my speciality.
I'm rooting around in the filth for jokes.
I feel like you make a good Mighty Boosh character.
Who do I remind you of? Don't say old Greg.
Well, I guess we just carried on talking about the game then. I've broken him. He's done. Plenty of 1-drops for Glory though. And this is going to be the last ditch attempt, although even with the sheer power level and godlike power overall of Priest, he's facing down a board that I just think cannot really be beaten unless what? Glory draws exactly silence?
Cannot.
Exactly silence?
Yeah, and even then, there's the rat trap.
Yeah.
It's just over. And I think, you know, at this point, like, Patra's doing absolutely the right thing, developing the most stuff each turn, making it as difficult as possible for Glory,
Just make
killing everything off.
broken shapes of minions, I think, is a good way to do it in Patra.
Yep.
He evens up the series, and honestly, although you can argue that, you know, Glory doesn't need to be overly stressed about this match because he's made top 4. He's just in playoffs 100%. It's an important match because for his chance at the global finals, he could go into playoffs with an automatic victory, like +1 win, or not. And you take all the help you can get.
You absolutely do, especially as when you look at the way the prize money is broken down, it is staggeringly top heavy. When you look at the league season that we've been playing for these 7 weeks versus BlizzCon, you're guaranteed, I believe, at least $25,000 for last place if you get through to BlizzCon. Right. Whereas here, I think it's like 3,000 or 2,000 for second place even here. So it's huge jumps in prize money. So like you said, if he can get that free win, being in first place, his chances of getting through to BlizzCon and therefore getting some serious dineros is very important.
Yeah, because if you think about it, just the raw difference, if you deem that every player is equal skill, let's just say that, you need to get 1 win instead of 2, that is just way easier because you still have 2 chances because you need to lose twice basically in that winning spot. So to be knocked out. So it means that like you are just likely to at least get through to the finals or the semi, should I say, from that group stage.
Yeah.
Whoever wins and comes in first in their division is just likely to get through. We'll see as we're going in. I think we're queuing up the next game pretty quick. It's going to be Priest versus Warrior. Going to be Glory locking in his Priest once again, of course. Priest being banned out for Patra. And it's something that was very interesting as well about Patra's approach to Grandmasters overall. Maybe if you look at the score, that's something that could be raised as indicative of how it's turned out. Is Patra's, I think, consistently not shielded Priest. I think it's always been like, I feel like Patra's Priest has been banned more than everyone else's Priest in Grandmasters overall. And I'm not saying that's just, oh, well, that's why her score's low, but it's something to consider that if you just don't get to play Priest that often and everyone else is, and everyone else's scores are better, it could be an impact.
And that's the part of the prep that I think I've disagreed with on Patra the most, is the pick and ban phase, which is, not something that you can just make a snap judgment about, even though that's what we kind of have to do when we're faced with what they actually end up picking and banning. Because I was talking to Casey the other day about how he does his preparation for Grandmasters, what's led him and Bunnyhopper to have a pretty successful couple of seasons. Apparently, they spent like a whole day purely talking about picks and bans. What do you do in your case your opponent does this? What are all the outcomes, and how do we maximize our percentages? Because in this format, that's where you pick up a lot of your percentages, how you improve your chances of winning drastically.
I couldn't agree more, and I think there's still a lot to be discussed for this format. But let's get into this game. Glory on the top on the Priest, playing for his first place finish in Division B. Patra on the bottom, playing for a better score and some extra prize money.
Yeah. Yeah, also really, I think just trying to not have the lowest record in Asia Pacific as well. If you can end up higher than Blood Trail as their other real competitor down at the bottom, it just does a little something to boost your morale a little bit.
And Blademaster just into Patra's turn 3/4.
Yeesh.
But it is going to die if Patra so decides, as Coin Mummy is 100% available.
Yeah. And it's... Given that this is not a traditionally fantastic hand by any stretch of the imagination for Glory, he can do a pretty good job turning this around. The obvious guaranteed Psychopomp res on the Blademaster is a huge boon to his game plan. But the problem is, with double Restless Mummy for Patra, it may just be too much for Glory to even fight against.
And also as well, not relevant at this second in time, but the shield slams, although don't look good now, just having a snap shield slam like a little bit later on, or a shield block into shield slam, really just does so much damage for the mana cost, right? It's actually pretty sick. Maybe you don't want 2 shield slams, but still. I think Patra's hand overall is actually pretty bad outside of the exact opening and the mummies.
Yeah, she's drawn, like, half her hand is bad cards and half of it is good cards at the moment. Because even though Dr. Boom is obviously a reasonable card in the matchup, all things considered, step 1 is definitely surviving the early game.
Okay. Double shield slam.
Wow, interesting.
It'll trade off the minion.
I honestly didn't even really consider this line instead of second Restless Mummy.
I've got more left in me.
It's not bad, actually.
Second shield slam could come into play as well.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
So just shield slam mummy. You get a 3-1 on the board.
That's what I'm
You know
looking
what? That's okay.
at. The alternative being Hero Power Warpath Shield Slam. But yeah, I think I'd rather have the 3-1 in play.
And Warpath is good if, for those wider boards outside of, Amit, of course.
Yeah.
But I think Warpath's way more flexible. And the second a Plague is picked up, it's insane. Because you don't care what health, your opponent's minions are at. They can be 1 million, still die to Plague.
Good way to show here, however, for Glory how flexible Priest can be, because this, like I said, was not the standard start that you're looking for as Priest, with the clerics healing up minions, going for a nice aggressive start with your buff cards. This was a much more mid-game minion-focused strategy to go for here. Not that he really had much of a choice in how he approached it. And it's worked out fine. He's still left with a very reasonably sized hand. He's going to end up drawing 6 cards off of Samdi. So honestly, it's not like he's running out of cards. He needs to start dumping cards onto the board to make room for all the draw he's going to have.
I'm just taking the time here. The rope is burning, but I think you have to respect it. It's a 2-7, and you've seen a Psychopomp. Like, just get it dead. Ooh, don't like that. I'm not a fan. Easy for us to see because there's an Nefer set, but this shield, if you leave... Okay, so my worry here is if you don't shield slam and you leave a minion on the board, the minion kills your armor.
Yeah.
So then shield slam is, unless you draw exactly that, shield slam's always worse, right? On average, shield slam becomes a 1 mana or 3 mana, arguably, deal 2 instead of 1 mana kill off the minion. I feel like Patra has been heavily punished for a play I really think she did not need to make.
Yeah, I agree. The punish, we can say it was only bad because the punish was in hand for Glory. It wasn't even just one card though that went wrong. Yeah, exactly. Circle was bad, Nefset was bad.
Cleric heal.
Just leaving a minion in play is like kind of a recipe for disaster.
Even like Cleric heal. There's something to heal, and okay, you could argue there'll be something to heal if the 3-1 was left up, but if you heal the 3-1, don't kill it, it kills the Cleric. So it's fine.
And I know that the thinking for Patra was, this is instant spot removal, and there are minions in Priest that you need to instantly remove, like Amit being the poster child for that, right? If you don't kill that off, you can just lose the game on the spot. But the threat was already presenting itself. It was there in the Tolvir, which had to be killed off there, I think.
She potentially could have just died that following turn,
Could
right?
have just died.
Obviously, the perfect cards. I'm not saying that's the reason to always play around it, but on top of everything else, you can also just die. And I don't think the payoff was worth it.
It's been a while since I've seen full suite Samdi here. Or I suppose you could call it 6 Samdi.
Unity. Precision.
That was a really good joke there. One Samdi in numbers, I love it.
My hand is full.
Oh! Wow, wow, wow. That, honestly, I think needed to happen for Patra in this game. When she is running low on resources, her hand is pretty lackluster, to be honest. That is huge for Glory. And he had the opportunity to play around it. You know, not necessarily to say that he should have done by just throwing down the Circle of Healing, because Circle's obviously a fantastic card when you know you're going to have double Northshire Cleric, double Light Warden in hand. But that is the risk you run.
What is a loon's
It's going to be tough
will?
now for Glory. I mean, it probably sounds weird saying that. He has tons of
In the
stuff,
light's name.
but is stuff enough?
The eternal question.
There you go. It's almost Shakespearean, that, wasn't it?
I think that was the working title for Love's Labour Lost.
Speak to me.
At least Glory can clear off the Ziliax and get some of the damage to face, which does open up, you know, a pretty strong turn. And Patra, to be fair, does have the Tomb Wardens, but doesn't have what would really be a plague, would be the best outcome here.
Yeah.
So it might just be too much anyway, even with the Amit burn.
I think that's probably going to be the case, yes, because the thing you even forget is that there's a 7/7 just on the board.
Right, and I think I was slightly distracted for just a minute, thinking, oh, Amit's been burnt, all the one-drops are way, 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 way worse than they were if Amit was still, you know, in the game.
Way worse.
But there's also just a massive minion that gets to hit you, and I think because Patra left up the Tolvir early and it got that attack in, that opens up slightly clunkier ways for Glory to win because he hit for like, what, 10, 11, 12, whatever it was. So it means that instead of having to do 30 with, say, double Divine Spirit in a fire, we have to do 20-ish.
It's worlds
Which
apart.
is way easy. You could do that with like a Blade Master easily.
Exactly. And this is the difference between needing 2 Divine Spirits and 1 Divine Spirit, which is worlds apart.
And it's just a lot of mana difference, right?
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
literally
Mana
double the mana.
means you can be more flexible with the first one. You don't even need it necessarily.
Oh, here we go. Glory's got a good handle.
my God.
I'm like, okay, I won't call this
If
before it's done, but I feel like he's got a good handle on this turn.
I think so too. He just has to not throw here is the thing.
No,
He has to not
that's
do.
why I'm saying I'm going to wait till he's actually
Okay,
finished the turn. But the fact he started locking it in way before the rope even started burning gives me confidence. But you know what, Derek? I'll tell you something. I've had confidence before.
Yeah, and it has not always been rewarded is the problem. Okay, I think we're
nailed
safe.
it?
I think we're safe.
Glory's reaction. Nope.
What happened?
My hand is
Nope. He messed up.
full. I am almost out of cards.
Burnt a Divine Spirit. Divine Spirit went God knows where. Okay, went on
I am out
the
of cards.
Bond Sandy. Did he miss silence or did he silence and not swing?
He must have missed the attack.
He must have missed the attack, right?
Oh!
Glory, glory, glory. I think Patra was close to laughing there, but actually just covered up her hand anyway. Covered up her mouth with her hand.
And we know what happens now. Oh, sorry, we know what happens now.
Oh! Oh!
What
I'm glad that Europe maybe is still asleep now, depending on what their bedtime is on the average day. Look, Glory can't even put himself on camera now.
He just
Show his don't you show your face around this streets ever again.
He just threw away first seed. Just threw it away.
And now he probably just loses, right?
He 100% just loses.
Well,
Sorry,
okay,
no,
there's still a
no,
15
no.
attack.
Sorry, he does not 100% just lose. He is in a bit more of a dire position. Oh no, wait, Patrick can't even kill it.
Yeah, it can't kill the 15.
Oh, okay.
But
I kind of just you can always
but-
kill it as warrior.
But there's no damage from hand.
Yeah.
There's no Divine Spirit. There's no Inner Fire.
You are
There's no
correct.
Topsy.
Yep.
So as long as Patra now, all Patra has to do is
Oh my
assess the
God.
situation and say, Glory has no extra damage that exists. It is all basic minions. If she just doesn't die
Yeah.
and keep the board as clear as possible and doesn't die on board, she wins 100% of the time.
Oh, I can't watch. I can't even watch.
Very disappointing, honestly.
Yes.
How early he locked in the turn, I was
Yeah.
like, oh, sick. We're going to see, a solid dum, get it done sort of turn.
Yeah.
And then maybe I cursed it, and if that's the case, 1, I'm quite powerful, but 2, I'm sorry. But that to just miss the attack is like,
We've just
he
seen
knew
it-
what to do.
We've seen it so many times here, Raven. Time and time again. These players are going for fancy play. I mean, I won't say fancy plays. It was the play to go for. That wasn't even like maybe I hit lethal. He was very, very, very likely to hit lethal there, and he was playing around the top deck of Brawl from Patra to clear the board, so I can understand what he was going for. But you just have to be able to realize it quicker. You can't be playing a deck like Priest that has these difficult combo turns and be messing them up.
I got you, friend.
now, 1 plague, and Patrick wins this game. 1 brawl, 1 play. GG.
That's just
That's
game!
Patrick, well, okay.
She's wondering, is there any way I lose now?
I thought it was game last turn, Derek,
Yeah,
so let's
same.
just hold on. But honestly,
That's game.
Patra should easily be able to acknowledge the fact that if these minions die, the game ends.
She cannot Adam and Eve it. Even gets the 3 damage to face.
Why not?
Mwah. Beautiful.
That's just going to be game. Glory, quite honestly, like you said, Derek, thrown away. First seed. He could have had a 1-win advantage, and instead has thrown it away. Disappointing overall.
What a way for both these players to finish their run here in Hearthstone Grandmasters for Season 2, at least in the league stage. Obviously, we're going to be seeing Glory 100% still in the playoffs next week, but it does now mean that Tom60229, I believe guaranteed, is our first seed going into next week.
Yeah, it was, I don't know, crazy. Glory seemed to just have everything just set up, locked, loaded, good to go. And I think I feel worse because he knew it was lethal.
Yes.
Because he did everything and it was lethal. The one attack was 100% lethal there. And he just missed it, didn't lock it in fast enough. Animations were a problem. And I don't know, what a crazy series. There was that moment for Glory, which was obviously the big stick out one. But even in the Shaman missing the Wasp, it just felt just unneeded, and it's disappointing. Glory will be the most disappointed from this, 100%. Of course. He'll be probably angry at himself more than anything. But I feel like these are just things that need to be very quickly scrubbed out and just forgotten about for next weekend, because he will make playoffs. He is in playoffs. And you can't do this, because in playoffs, the winner goes to global finals. Yep. That's it. There is nothing else.
Yeah, it's the kind of situation where I don't want to group him and Ali Timu together too much, but then both being strong practice partners, they got to sort out their nerves, man. They are making these mistakes too often.
Yeah, it's not too great. I believe we do have Patra, though, standing by for an interview. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Guys, it's me. I'm back. I get to say goodbye.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say as well, just overall, congratulations on the match win, of course. And how do you just want to talk about, I'll kind of just give you the stage here, but do you want to just talk about how you feel, at least, to just go out on a high note on a win there?
Yeah, I mean, this feels like history is kind of repeating itself, right? Because the first season, I beat Glory, and then Tyler went into playoffs. And now, well, Tyler's not in this group, but it feels like in season 2, I beat him again for my very last match. So I'm really happy. I really wanted to get another win, this weekend, and I'm really happy that I got that win. And I get to talk to you guys again and say goodbye.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the match overall, I'm sure you agree, was kind of crazy. We had some slip-ups from Glory in terms of just, missing the Wasp attack in the Shaman game, and then obviously just missing lethal at the end there. And I just want to get your thoughts on it, because you spoke previously about how much preparation is important to you, and just in Hearthstone anyway. But how do you is there anything you do to try and deal with these high-pressure scenarios? Because we're seeing across all of GM, players just slip up and make what we would deem basic mistakes, almost certainly down to the pressure.
The strangest thing is that I think when you think too much about your match, it just builds up all this pressure, because every time I practiced a lot before a match, I end up losing, and then the matches I don't end up practicing for, I win. So it's really weird. I think maybe it's like when you're just calm about things and you're like, everything's okay, I'm just going to play it out. And then I think that's when it goes smoothly. But yeah, I was really surprised. Like you said, I saw the Wasp. I was like, I'm pretty sure he was trying to, deal 6 damage to my taunt. And I thought I was dead. I was like, I knew the rope was burning. He was drawing so many cards. And I was like, I know he silenced my taunt. I saw him point at it. And then I was like, did he get the attack? And then when he didn't, I was like, he saw my face, right? When I got the board clear, I was just so happy.
Yeah, it was a really good way to finish off, at least, because the plague did end the game for you there.
Yeah, and I remember seeing you tweeted out that you feel like Grandmasters, I can't remember what your exact phrasing was like a training grounds? Yeah, that was it. And I want to ask, what do you feel like you've come away from having learned or having gained through your time in Grandmasters?
It's really opened up my eyes to a lot of things, mad props to all the pros. I know how hard it is to be a full-time competitive Hearthstone player now, because it's just a lot of work, a lot of practice. And I got to experience that being here in Grandmasters, and I just want to thank Blizzard for inviting me. I'm just super happy that I got to experience this, because I don't know if I'm coming back, so. But I do plan to go to the Master Tours, so
nice.
We'll see how I do there.
Yeah, there's always a chance there. And before we, have you on here for another half an hour grilling you with questions, just want to give you a final farewell, and if there's anything else you would like to say before you go.
Yeah, thanks to Blizzard. Thanks for everybody in chat who supported me. I really appreciate it. And, thank you to the casters, you guys, and EU and NA for being so entertaining.
Okay, awesome. Thanks a lot, Patra. It was a pleasure to have you in Grandmasters, and we'll see you later.
Thank you. Bye.
Always nice, just Patra there, just going off on a high note. Must have a pretty upsetting ending for Patra, no doubt. Did not want to be out of Grandmasters, but if you're gonna go out, you may as well go out with a win.
Exactly, and I think it's not only about the results that you put forward. You so often hear the players talk about the mindset they have if they would rather play well and lose than win and play poorly. And that indicates to me that it's just about learning and improving along the way all the time. And I think that's what the name of the game is here for Patra. Having experienced the life of a true competitive player week in, week out, she can hold her head high, having learned a lot, I would imagine, and try to set her sights, as she says, on Masters Tour events in the future and maybe get her way back in.
Yep, learning from experience is all any of us can really do. But let's check out the standings now and see what impact that has made. Tom is going to be your Division B Seed 1. So he's going to go into the playoffs with an advantage there as Glory, due to... Honestly, don't want to be too harsh, but due to his own mistakes,
yes. That is not too harsh.
It's not too harsh. I guess it's true. I guess I'm just too nice, feeling it's harsh.
You are too nice for your
But
own
yeah,
good.
Glory, due to his own mistakes, is going to be in seed number 2, which means he missed out on an advantage. He doesn't go in with a disadvantage, but it could have been better for him, and he's only got himself to blame for that one, unfortunately. But yeah, so that's going to be Tom rocking the top, Glory second place, but we've still got more matches to play next up.